Welcome back, neighbors. If this is your first time here, my name is Gilbert and that's little Santi over there. And today we're going to talk to you about 5 things to consider before you get yourself some goats. Let's get started. Alright, number 1 and most important thing of all is that before you get goats, consider that they are herd animals. Alright, so if you're in the market for buying a goat, you better be ready, because you can't only buy one. You gotta at least buy 2, preferably at least 3, because that actually makes them a little bit happier whenever they have a little bit more friends to play with. I currently have 9 nannies right here, and I got the Billy separate over there. As you can hear them, gotta separate the Billy from the nannies because we want to make sure that we have kids a certain time of the year. Number 2, second thing to consider before getting goats is the type of land that you have, because goats are really good foragers, not the best at grazing. So the reason I have them out here right now is because every now and then I want them to interact with us a little bit more, and that's why I bring them out to the backyard. But I mainly keep them in the corral, and there we have plenty of brush that they can eat. Whenever they go low on that brush, then I put a hay feeder out there for them so they can try to stay as full as possible and avoid grazing. The reason you want to avoid them grazing too much is because when they graze as they're doing right now, is they often pick up more parasites that way. Getting down close to the ground will get them to pick up those parasites, and then that means you do have to give them a lot more medicine, and they'll get sick a lot faster if you don't keep up with that. So Santiago, what are you doing, man? Be careful. Alright, come on, get back down. You got it? You got it? Alright, be careful. Number 3, the third thing you need to consider before getting goats is that they are fun, they are cute, and we really love our goats, but they have to be careful when you have little ones like Santiago, right, Santi? You remember Pepper from the garden?
Yeah.
You gonna eat it?
No, it's hot.
It's hot. You want to eat a hot pepper?
No.
Okay. So do you remember that time that the goats almost knocked you down?
Yeah.
You gave them food and they almost knocked you down, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something you guys have to consider.
It's ready.
It's ready?
Yeah, because look.
Oh, we'll take it inside to mommy. Take it to mommy.
That would be what that.
Alright, be careful. Yes, these goats are a little too friendly sometimes. And I remember well that my little boy came out here one time and he grabbed the feed bucket and started shaking it, and these goats took off on him. When they came up towards him, they weren't doing it intentionally. They were going for the bucket, but they ended up knocking the bucket out of his hand. He panicked, wanted to run, and when he tried to run, they knocked him over. Luckily, I heard him. I ran over there and I picked him up out of the pile, and he was safe. But again, if you have a few goats, you got to be careful with your little ones. All right, until they get into, I don't know, I would say 6-7 years old, whenever they can actually take off running, then they may be a little safer. But 5 years and down, you need to really be careful if you have a few goats. Okay, guys, so that's the third thing you need to consider. Do you have kids? Are they ready to have goats? Are you going to keep them away from the kids as far as like in the corral? Are the kids going to be able to get to the corral? So that's something to think about. Alright, guys, now let's move on to number 4. Alright, the fourth thing you need to consider before getting goats is that, do you have the right fencing ready for your goats? And if you have cows, that cow probably only uses 5 strands of barbed wire and they stay in, right? Well, goats,
Oh, look at the.
yeah, they're the goats, huh? The goats don't stay in with barbed wire, alright? They will go through that. Like a 3-board fence, they will jump through it. But if you can see, and I'm about to show you a little bit closer because that might be hard, is that we actually have a woven wired fence behind this 3-board fence. You see? This woven wired fence keeps them from actually jumping through those gaps. We got more woven wire fence over on that side, and on our actual corral, we actually have welded wire on the corral. The reason why I went with 4-foot high welded wire back here in the corral and a strand of barbed wire is because when you have woven wire that has those big squares like we have in our backyard, those goats can actually fit their head in between that square, and they sometimes get their horns stuck. So when they do that, of course they don't eat and drink water for however long they get stuck, and I don't want that to happen.
How we're gonna put them up if we get far inside?
Exactly. We don't want a goat being stuck, right?
No.
No, we want a goat to be able to walk around and eat, right?
Yeah.
All right, that's why. What if we're away from the home for a day because we have a family event somewhere? Well, that goat might be stuck all day. And that's why I went with welded wire back here in the corral, because they can't get their head stuck in this, but they can in our backyard. But we only let them out in the backyard when we're home and we can actually monitor them.
Only when we're home.
Only when we're home. So
yeah,
that is something to consider. Number 4, consider what kind of fencing you're going to be putting up. Welded wire really isn't that expensive. You can actually buy a roll for about $120 of 100 foot. So the woven wire I actually picked up for like $190, and that one did go like 330 feet. But welded wire is a little more expensive, but I think it is very much needed, so that way you can actually just get away from the home comfortably and know that your goats are not going to be hung up somewhere, at least in their small corral. All right, now moving on to number 5. What number is something?
5.
Number 5. The 5th thing to consider before you get your goats is, do you have a shelter for them? Goats don't like to be wet. All right, I have the woods back there, and as soon as it rains, believe me, they don't take off for the woods, they take off for their shelter. So you got to make sure you have something set up for them. I actually made a video on how to make that shelter. It was quick, it was easy, and very inexpensive. So I'll put it in the description below, so that way you can check it out. And there's also an easier way to make a shelter. If you only have about 2 goats, you could do half of what I did. But I went with a 10 by 10 because I know I was going to keep a few goats, at least more than 5. And you want to make sure you have at least a divider for whenever your goats are going to kid. So that's something to consider as well, is that you can't use one big shed for all the goats. You have to be able to divide it up, because whenever a nanny is kidding, but that is called whenever she gives birth to a baby goat, kidding. So whenever the nanny is kidding, she wants to be separate from everybody else. If you let her interact too much with everybody else, she sometimes ends up not wanting her baby goat. That actually happened to one of our goats. She actually went into labor before I even knew about it. I was off at work. When I came home, I tried to go check on her, and she had already gave birth, and she was with the rest of the goats. So she neglected her little doeling that was born. And what happened was that when she neglected them, they didn't get the right feeding and the nutrition, and whenever we took her in to try to save her, it was too late. So we unfortunately lost her. So it's very, very important that you have the right shelter and that you have it set up for whenever you have a newborn goat on your farm. All right, guys, so that is 5 things to consider before getting goats. Now, don't get me wrong, guys, goats are awesome to have. We truly like having our goats. Right now we have Nubian Boer goats, and we're debating whether we're going to keep this kind of breed, because we're thinking about switching over to Nigerian dwarf goats, because here at CG Family Farm, we're all about the attraction of goats. You know, we like to have the nice looking animals, like we have the mini Cebus. We're gonna have a pony, we're gonna have a nice horse, we have the roosters, the chickens. I mean, it's all about having a nice looking goat, and nothing against these goats that we currently have, but they're not the best looking. All right, Nubian Boer, they're more of a milker meat bloodline. They're not too much of a good looking bloodline, so we're unfortunately gonna have to let some of these go and probably pull in some Nigerian dwarf. So if you guys think of anything else that the rest of this community can benefit from, as far as what to consider, what to look out for when getting goats, please make comments down below. Make comments down below so we can all learn more and more stuff together, right? And that is exactly why we made a Facebook group, all right? We made a Facebook group called Family Farm Enthusiasts. Look us up. It's Family Farm Enthusiasts on Facebook, and that group is all about everyone sharing their ideas of shelters, chicken coops, or how you make your own DIY feeders, or simply sharing photos about the farm life, right? We really enjoy having our animals, being out here in the country with our kids. So if you guys are on the same page as we are, then please go to that Facebook group and become part of it. That way you can share all your adventures, all your photos, all your ideas, and we can all grow together more and more as farm life enthusiasts. All right, guys? So I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, you already know, go out there and have fun.